and welcome back to my channel. So today I created this really pretty like monochromatic pink cranberry cherry makeup look. I used the Naked Cherry palette, so I really like the way this look turned out. If you guys want to see how I created this and the thoughts on this palette, then make sure you just go ahead and keep on watching. So I actually went ahead and compared the Morphe 24G palette with the Naked Cherry palette. So I've got some swatches to show you guys. Okay, so obviously not every shade is an exact dupe, but right here I've got the shade Hotspot from the Naked Cherry palette, and then on top of that I've got the lightest transition shade from the 24G palette. Right here I've got the shade Big Bang from the Naked palette, and then I've got a pink coppery shimmer right here from that Morphe palette. Right here I have got the shade Turn On from the Naked Cherry palette. Right here is a shade from the Morphe palette. Here I have got the shade Ambitious from the Naked palette. And then on top of it I have a shade from the Morphe palette. Right here, this one was a hard one to dupe just because it is an interesting color. It's kind of like duochrome with like pink and orange. But this is the shade Young Love. And then on top I have a shade that's pretty similar from the Morphe palette. Not exact, but it's pretty close. This one is just a little bit more red. Right here I've got the shade Drunk Dial from the Naked palette, and then on top I've got a shade from the Morphe palette. And then right here I have the shade Privacy from the Naked palette, and then on top I have a shade from the Morphe palette. So I've got lots of shades right here that are pretty close in color, and the Naked palette retails for $49. And then the Morphe palette on top retails for only $25. Okay, so as you can see, I've already got my brows on and my lids primed. It is creasing a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of blend that out. And then I am going to start digging into this palette. So I'm just going to pop the brush out that comes with it. I think I'm actually going to use the fluffy side of the brush to set down my lid today. So I am going to take the shade Hotspot, which is right here. It's almost white. It's a little bit more cream than it is white, but I am just going to pack that on. Normally shades like this are not super pigmented, but this shade is really pigmented. Wow, okay. I feel like Urban Decay has really stepped up their eyeshadow formula over the past like few years. Everybody has used the Naked palettes again and again, but I feel like they were kind of just like the staple in everybody's like makeup bag. They weren't necessarily like the best quality, just everybody loved them. I had the Naked 3, actually just recently got rid of it just because I didn't like it that much, or maybe it was the Naked 2. Whatever the pink one was, that's what I had. And I also had the Naked 1, which I liked all of them, but there's definitely better shadow formulas out there. But again, it's like, I think that the Naked 2, whatever the pink like rosy one is, that was my first high-end eyeshadow palette ever. So it's just one of those things that always like stick out in your memory, and I think that that's how it is for everybody with the Naked palettes. Those were kind of like a staple in everybody's like beginning makeup. So in this palette, I mean, there's not much variation that you can do other than like keeping it within like the pink like mauve tones. And so obviously what I'm going to be doing today is a pinky mauve tone look. So I am going to take my Morphe Y16 and I'm going to pick up the shade Feels right here. It's just a more like muted mauve color. And I am just going to blend that on the outer V and in the crease. Like I said, all these shades are super pigmented and really nice. They are shades that I feel like are in almost every single eyeshadow palette that we see nowadays, but I think that it's really pretty. It's a unique color scheme just for Urban Decay, at least through like the Naked line. They don't have a lot of palettes that are this color, like the Naked 1 and then the Naked 3. They were all like neutral brown shades, and then they had the Naked Heat, which was like orange, and then the Smoky, which was like obviously smoky colors. So this is just a more unique color scheme for them, but for brands in general, not really anything new or exciting that we've never seen before. But I just think that the quality and the price point of the shadows is right. Okay, so now I'm going to take my M441 and I am going to pick up the shade Bing, which is right here. It's more of like a bright mauve color. So I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to start putting that on the outer V. I've been really liking to bring my shadow out into kind of a cat eye shape. So I think I'm going to go in with a shape like that again today. This palette is blending out really nicely. I really like all the shades in here. But like I've said a million times, I just really like pink and like purple tone shadows, especially for brown eyes. I feel like it makes your eyes kind of pop and look really pretty. So this palette was like right up my alley. I don't really know what's been keeping me from purchasing this, but now that I have it, I feel like it's going to kind of be a staple in my eyeshadow routine. So do you think that you guys would like doing a video that kind of compares drugstore or like cheaper price pointed palettes to higher end palettes? Like I said, I think I have like every single Morphe palette. The only one that I don't have is the two that are new at Ulta, the one that has like the green shadows in it, and then there's one that has blue, I think. I don't have either of those, but I have all of the rest of the Morphe palettes. So I think that those with a few other like drugstore, and I have a lot of like the ColourPop single shadows, I could compare those to shades in like palettes like a Naked palette or something like that. And I could show you guys different price points and dupes for the eyeshadow palettes that are coming out. I think that that'd be like a really cool, maybe even like series to do. So every like few months maybe do something like that, just so that we have, I mean, there's new releases coming out, like it seems like every single week with new palettes. So I feel like doing something like that could be something that I could turn into a series on my channel for you guys. So if you would like to see something like that, make sure to leave it in the comments down below, because that's something that I would love to do for you guys. I spend a lot of money on makeup, but I know that not a lot of people can just spend a lot of money on makeup. So I would like to be able to just kind of show you guys looks using different price pointed palettes. And even if I use a high-end palette or something that's like a little bit more expensive, I want you guys to be able to create the same look, so I could show you some cheaper options for the palettes, or like dupes for the palettes that I'm using. But when you think about it, if you have a 12 shade eyeshadow palette for $49, that's a little over $4 a shade, which it's not super expensive. But take the Morphe palette that I put in at the beginning of the video, $25 for 24 shades. That's just a little bit above $1 for each eyeshadow. So really you just have to think about if it's worth paying that much for something that you could get at a cheaper price. So I'm going to take that same pencil brush that we've been using and pick up the shade Privacy, which is this really dark brown shade right here. And I'm going to pack that on the very outer V just to deepen everything up. I don't want to bring it too high or too far in onto the lid. I just really want to focus it right in this really small area right where your outer corner kind of comes together. It's just going to give the eye look a little bit more depth, but it's not going to be too dramatic. So for all over the lid today, I think I'm actually going to take the shade Young Love, which is right here. It's a very like cranberry pink shade. I guess you could say cherry. It's up to you on what you'd want to call it. But I'm going to pick that up on this brush, and I'm going to see what it looks like without it being dampened. It's pretty, but I do dampen almost all of my shimmer shades, so I'm just going to do that with this just to give it a fair shot. And I'm going to spray that down. This is one of the shades that I found that I did not find an exact dupe for in that Morphe palette, but it's still really pretty. So if you want a shade like this, you may have to get this palette. I'll do some research online and leave a shadow in the description if I find one that is really close to this shade. So I'm going to do the same to the other eye. I do want to add a little bit more like depth to the look, so I'm going to go in with another shimmer shade, maybe on the center and obviously in the inner corner. But for now, I think this shade is really pretty. It kind of reminds me of one of the shades that are in the Huda Beauty, what is it, like Sapphire Obsessions palette. I'm not sure, like the red one. It kind of reminds me of a shade that's in there. I haven't really played with that one that much. So now that I've got that shade on, I am going to go in with the shade Big Bang Bang right here, which is kind of like a strawberry lemonade like pink color. And I am going to pick that up on the same brush that we've been using, and I'm going to spray that again with that Morphe Prep and Set. And then I'm going to pop that on the center of the lid. I just want to add a little bit more depth and dimension to the look. I think that cranberry first shade that we used, Young Love, was really pretty, but I think that it did look a little bit plain just since it was almost the exact same color as my outer V shade that we're using over here. So I think adding this shade in is going to add kind of that pop of color and kind of like light is hitting the eye. So then I'm going to take my Morphe M330 and pick up the shade Devilish, which was that dark cranberry shade that we were using before, and I am going to just kind of blend over the edges of that. You're going to want to make sure that that setting spray that you put on that shadow is dry before you blend a matte shade over it, just because you will get a really harsh line that's almost impossible to blend out if you don't. I've been there a million times, and I've basically had to wipe off my whole eye look and start over. And then I am going to take my just like flat top brush and pick up the shade Privacy, which is that darkest brown shade that we were using, and kind of put that against the lash line like liner. I'm not going to do it up too high, just enough to bring a little bit of volume to the lashes. Okay, so now that I've got the rest of my face on, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the eyes. So I'm going to take my Morphe Y20 brush and pick up the shade Bing and Devilish mixed together, which are these two shades right here. And I'm going to run that against the lower lash line. I really want this to be smoked out and like brought down pretty far. So I do like that really like cat eye shape. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the lower lash line with the upper lash line on both sides. And then I'm going to pick up my Morphe M330 and pick up the shade Feels, which is that muted mauve shade that we used at the beginning of the look. And I'm going to really smoke that out. So I'm going to take the M431 that we were using earlier, and I'm going to clean off the brown shade, and I am going to pick up the shade Bing, which is the brighter pink that we were using. And again, I'm just going to press that as close to the lash line as possible, just to bring a little bit of the pink back in to the look. For highlight on the brow bone in the inner corner today, I'm actually going to take my Morphe Y22 brush, and I'm going to mix together the pink highlight shade that I use for the face, which is called Starlight, and then I'm going to take the shade Big Bang out of the Naked palette that we've been using. And I'm going to pick those up on that Y22 and spray it with some Morphe Prep and Set and pop that on the inner corner. For my skin tone, I feel like Big Bang was a little bit too like dark of a shade, so I feel like mixing it with that highlight really makes it pop and gives you like an inner corner like glow. So that is the eyeshadow look all completed. So I'm going to go ahead and pop on some liner and mascara off camera, and then I will be right back to put on a lip. So I really wish that I had like a magenta or like purple liner to put in my waterline, but I don't, so this is the eye look all completed. And then for a lip today, I think I want to go in with something a little bit more bold. So I'm going to go in with this Laura Lee Los Angeles lippy in the shade Rose Icing. It's a metallic kind of lip color, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on the lips. Okay guys, so this is the look all completed. I really hope that you guys liked it. I really like the way that it turned out. This lip is something totally different than what I normally go for, but I thought that I would give this lipstick a try. I do really like it, and my overall thoughts of this palette, I really liked it. So I know I'm a little behind. The palette's been out for quite a while now, but this is my first time actually testing it, and I love it. I think that all the shades in here are really pretty, but like I showed you, the Morphe 24G palette, which is this palette right here, it's the one that has like the really big pans in it. It has, I would say, about half of exact dupes for this Naked palette and lots of other shades that are really similar. So that's on you whether you decide to get it or not, but as I was using it, I do think that it was really pretty and it ended up blending out really nicely. I just created like a cranberry, I guess you could say cherry, monochromatic like pink look, and I really like the way that it turned out. So if you guys like this video, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. I will see you guys back in my next video. Bye guys, thanks so much for watching.